Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lipford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. This week we cover a lot of different subjects, just like we do every week, and one subject that we wanted to dig into a little bit is the importance of keeping your dryer vent clean. Now, we talk with a homeowner that has a dryer vent that's 30 feet long. That can really gather a lot of lint. We give them a few solutions to that, including a very special fan that can make a big difference in that scenario.
Yeah, running at 30 feet, you're really on the outer limits of how much dust and lint it could blow out. So, yeah, the fan's a great idea. We're also going to talk to a homeowner who's thinking of converting a piece of furniture. She has an antique dresser, and she wants to make it into a bath vanity, which you actually can do. And we give her some tips on how to do that exact project.
Yeah, and that can be very economical and a great look in the right kind of bathroom there. That furniture style vanity, very popular right now. You know, another thing we want to tackle a little bit is how to prevent a very slippery surface around your home. Might be stairs, might be a deck, might be a walkway. Our friend Peter Daich from Daich Coating joins us to talk about a brand new product called TracSafe that actually came as a result of him slipping and falling and going, hey, I've got to figure something out here. Well, he's figured it out, and it might be a solution to any situation that you may have. We got to keep our home safe, and we'll give you some great tips on how to do that.
And I've got a simple solution on how to cut rolls of material. It could be paper, like builder's paper or rolled roofing, without it tearing once you start making that cut.
Okay, we got a lot to cover, so let's get started right now. Let's go to the hotline right now. Ian is on the phone from Virginia. Ian, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Good to be with you.
Tell us all about this dryer, because this is a problem that a lot of other people are going to be paying attention to, because it is a big problem out there.
Well, the basic problem is that it's hard to get clothes dry, and I'm not sure exactly why. The dryer is only about 2 years old, and we think that perhaps it's caused because of the venting system in the house. The dryer is next to the garage. It's just separated by a wall. But then the vent pipe goes into a crawl space, and probably it goes as far as 30 feet before it exits out into the yard. And we have had problems where we've solved it by putting in first of all, PCV pipe, thinking that would be a way for the lint to move quickly, and that didn't work well. And then we went back to the aluminum flexible vent tubing, and that seems not to be really good either, because by the time the lint gets to the outside, it's got caught in the ups and downs of the aluminum vent pipe.
Right. Yeah, having a smooth pipe is always much better. PVC or even thin metal is better. But when you're trying to push that air 30 feet and you have some lint that starts building up in there, it's going to really be a challenge. I'll tell you what. I have had the exact same situation at my previous home where I originally built it and thought that would be fine. I routed it under the slab right outside. It was about 30 feet there, and every month almost it got harder and harder to dry clothes. Got to where it would take an hour and a half to dry clothes instead of what it should have been 45 minutes. So I explored a lot of different things there and being able to do it. But I'll tell you what I ended up doing. Do you have is this a single-story house or a two-story?
It's two-story.
Okay.
It's a two-story, and also it's got a walkout basement.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I went vertical with the line. And you might think, okay, well, I'm going vertical. I'm probably going 16 or 18 feet. But I put and it doesn't have to be vertical to put what I put in, an inline booster fan. And this thing is just tremendous. It was very easy to install. And you hook your power to it. And then as soon as your dryer turns on to exhaust that air, it kicks on and boosts boost it. And I'm telling you, we went from an hour and a half right back to 45 minutes the very first time we did it. It pushes that lint out of there, so you rarely have any problem on that. Matter of fact, Ian, we have a video online right now at todayshomeowner.com. You can just put in dryer booster fan in our search engine. You'll be able to see the one that we installed. And it's not that expensive, but boy, does it ever work. And it's not something you have to turn on and off. It comes on automatically. I would certainly consider that. Even if you keep it routed in the way that you have it routed, I would go back with smooth metal piping and have as few turns in it as you can. Shorten the run to the outside if there's any way of doing it, and the problem will be solved without spending a lot of money.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so check out that, like I say, just go to todayshomeowner.com and put in dryer booster fan, and you'll see exactly what we did there. I think that'll be a good solution for you.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate your help.
Right now, we're going to go right back to the phones and right back to Virginia. Boy, that's where we find Melinda. Melinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey, tell us about this idea. I like this, your thought about utilizing some old dressers that you have for a new purpose. Tell us what you're thinking here.
I'm hoping to use 2 old dressers that I have to make into bathroom vanities. And I probably will have to pay a whole lot more for the hardware than the dressers cost me, but I think they'll be much better looking than the MDF things I get at the big store.
Sure. Well, I've seen a lot of people do this, and I mean, I've seen some very whimsical approaches to this. I've seen some very traditional approaches to it, and you know what's funny about it is it's definitely a popular trend because a lot of the vanities that you see now have the furniture feet, have the characteristics of it with the backsplash and so forth. So I think it's a great idea. One of the things, of course, you're going to be introducing this piece of furniture into a lot of a moist area.
Humidity.
Yeah, a lot of humidity. So putting a good coat of paint or varnish, depending on if it's painted or stained, on the outside is very important.
Czar or something like that?
Yes, that would work very well. And also inside, I would consider, even taking a can of polyurethane spray is a great way to do it. Get it outside where you have some good ventilation.
Yeah.
And just kind of seal the pores of all of the inside of it as well is a very good proactive way. It will make it a lot easier to clean. But then you got to talk about the countertop, because if you're putting wood in there, you've got to cut that sink out, no problem there.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to make sure the sink and the plumbing will fit, so you may have to modify some drawers and so forth, depending on how it's
like cut them in half and hinge them.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah.
A lot of different ways just to allow that basic room for your water lines and your drain line. And then if you're going to maintain that wood top, then you'll really want to put a good urethane, several coats on it to lock it in so that moisture won't affect it at all. And I'll tell you what, I've seen some beautiful, beautiful pieces there of furniture, of recycling some furniture like that looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm sure Joe has some tips for us. Joe, what do you think on that? I know you've seen that same trend quite a bit.
Yeah, I see it every time I go into our master bathroom because Melinda, I did the exact same thing
oh, is that right?
To an old dresser. And I tell you what I did that worked really well. If you do cut a hole and drop the sink in like a standard sink, you lose a lot of space. So I installed a vessel sink, which is it looks like a bowl that sits on the top.
Yeah.
And that worked. In fact, before you get off the air, leave Dennis, our producer, our engineer, leave him your email address and I'll send you a couple of photographs. But in any case, it sits on top, and I brought the plumbing up into the wall, and the faucet's actually mounted to the backsplash on the wall over the sink.
Yeah.
Right? So it cleans up the top of the piece itself, of the dresser itself. So the only thing on the dresser in this case is the bowl of the sink. The vessel sink sitting on top.
They make some beautiful ceramic. And
the one I have is just a white ceramic one, and now they have them in clear glass and colored glass. I'm afraid of the clear glass ones because I don't see them all that well. I can't imagine I'm not smashing it. But and then I did have to cut. Yeah, and mine had 2 drawers at the top, and on each of them, I only had a notch a little bit off of each one. And again, I'll send you a photograph of this just to go around the sink trap. And the whole rest of the cabinet was completely open because the sink is sitting on top.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so leave Dennis your email address, and I'll send you some photos.
Great. Thank you.
We certainly appreciate you being a part of the show this week, and I hope you have a great weekend as well.
Thank you. You too.
Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot, how doers get more done. Tiling a bathroom requires a lot of steps, so eliminating some of them will save you a lot of time and work. That's the idea behind Hardy Backer Cement Board with Hydro Defense from James Hardy. It's a waterproof cement backer board designed for use on walls, floors, and countertops as an underlayment for tile in moisture-prone areas. That means you can skip the step of waterproofing the entire board and just waterproof the joints and the fasteners. Plus, it's also formulated with mold block technology to protect the board against damage from mold, which is always a concern in any damp space. So if you have a bath project coming up, save yourself some time and give it a try. For more information on Hardy Backer Cement Board with Hydro Defense, log on to HomeDepot.com.
What a great idea.
Yes, I mean, it only makes sense. And
what took so long to come up with that?
Exactly. And this is the kind of thing I like. I like when manufacturers identify problems. They go, well, well, people are putting this up and then they're having to waterproof it. It's one more step. Here, you're able to put it up, you're able to seal it, and then you're able to put the material on it. So
people, when they first started putting up cement backer board, they didn't seal it at all. And people were like, well, why do we have to seal it? Well, because it's cement, and cement is porous, and water would go right through it. So this is a great idea.
Hey, let's go to the emails here. Billy in Maryland says, I built an extension onto our deck, but when I began staining the pressure-treated deck boards, I noticed light spots where the stain wouldn't soak in. I then saw that some of the deck boards have shiny sections about 10 inches long. A few of the longer deck boards have 2 or 3 of these shiny spots. I brushed some stain onto one shiny section, and sure enough, the stain just sat right on top. What can I do to get the stain to soak in evenly? I don't want a splotchety stain job, and thanks for any suggestions that you might have. Well, Joe, I think here with the pressure-treated wood, most of it's pine. You have a lot of resin in it. You have a lot of knots that are just going to absorb that a little bit. What would you suggest on this one?
Well, he could try sanding it lightly or using a little bit of a liquid deck stripper. But what I would suggest, it might be mill glaze. And mill glaze is caused during the manufacturing process where the rollers on the planer crush the grain. And so it's not absorbing it. And they actually make a product called Stand Prep Mill Glaze Away. So there you go. Try that.
Stand Prep?
Stain Prep.
Stain Prep.
Mill Glaze Away. It's made by a company called BioWash out of Canada. They make really great non-toxic products.
There you go, Billy. That's your solution for it. And be able to have a nice, smooth-looking deck for the upcoming summer. Let's pick up another one from Sandy in Kentucky.
I have a question. Wondering about my bathroom mirror. It's glued to the wall, and we're needing to replace it. I'm wondering if there is a way we can safely remove it without breaking it or getting glass everywhere.
Well, safely removing it is certainly the key phrase there, Sandy. And why people are still gluing mirrors to walls, I have no idea, but I suspect they have no intention of having to ever remove it themselves. So maybe it's not an issue for them. There are 2 ways to do this. And either way, you need to first start with protective eyewear, gloves, leather gloves, long sleeves, anything you can protect yourself, because there's no guarantee this isn't going to crack and a piece come flying off. Could be a small piece, a little piece. So eye goggles, face shield, anything you can do, and spread, blankets or towels or something soft, moving pads all over the room the bathroom in this case, to try to, in case something does fall. There are 2 basic ways to do it, and this is the way the pros do it. And one way, believe it or not, is with a hammer and shims. You're not hitting the mirror with the hammer, but what you're doing is you're tapping shims in. You get thin shims and you tap them in little at a time, all the way around the mirror, little by little by little, and eventually that adhesive will pull off. The other way is to use something called the windshield cutout wire. You can buy this at any auto supply store. It's nothing more than a length of wire that has like an abrasiveness to it, and you slip it behind it and you just go back and forth, sawing it essentially. And what you're doing, of course, you're just sawing through the adhesive, maybe through the drywall. And once you get this off, that's the other thing, is you're going to have a little bit of a mess to clean up on that drywall, I'm sure. But those, Sandy, are the 2 ways, either with the hammer and shims or the cutout wire.
I tell you what, we get a lot of calls and emails about how to create a anti-skid surface, whether it's those concrete steps or whether it's the deck, or, it's just one of those things that you might not think about until an accident happens. And I'll tell you what, we have Peter Daich on the call with us right now from Daich Coatings, the founder and owner of that wonderful business. And he's kind of like the white knight riding in on the horse right now with a solution to all of these different things. Peter, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Good day, guys. Good day. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Well,
now you have to get a horse.
Yeah,
there you go.
This we want to talk about TracSafe, which is a anti-skid sealer that you created somewhat out of necessity. Tell us what, let's say, motivated you to produce this.
Well, like many other people, I have had my share of slips and falls, and there was a time several years back when I decided to go for a swim, and the pool deck was tile. It was ceramic tile, and it was wet in places, and I tried to be careful, but, sure enough, I slipped and went down and hit my butt hard on the deck, and it always struck me, how do you fix this problem? And what if I wasn't so lucky? And, I think about all the folks out there who are older or young children. It can be catastrophic. So we set to putting something together that anyone can use on basically any surface to add slip resistance and make a surface safer.
Now, Peter, does this have, first of all, I mean, it's surprising to some people that floor tiles would be slippery because by code they have to have a certain amount of slip resistance. But if they get a little wet moisture on it, dew in the morning, or water spilled, in your case from a pool, they are still pretty slippery. So with TracSafe, from what I understand, it doesn't really have an abrasive in it, though, right? It's not like we're talking about like you can get sand paint or something like that, because this is, from what I understand, a clear sealer, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what makes it slip resistant?
Well, basically, this material will go down. It will impart a clear finish, but it has a grip to it. And it actually offers a very significant standard in terms of grabbing your foot. So whether you have bare feet on a wet area, or if you have shoes on or whatnot, it will grab. And basically, when it dries, it has a texture that will grab your feet.
Wow, sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about this, what I think so cool about it is you're able to actually use it on, garage and basement floors. You use it certainly around the pool and decks and patios and terraces. And I know so many people that have the concrete steps, and they always talk about how when it gets just a little bit of moisture or a little bit wet, it's slippery. So it'll really work on any of those surfaces, won't it, Peter?
It will. And basically, sometimes you will paint an existing concrete surface outdoors, for instance, and you want to, decorate it and make it look better. But at the same time, when the water is on there, you have, a very good condition for a possible slip scenario. So the whole idea there is you put this on, and the product is an excellent sealer in its own right. So not only are you adding traction to that surface, but it's actually freshening it, making it look new, and protecting it. So it really performs double duty. But for steps, it's great. For existing decks, it's great. Anywhere that you're afraid of having a slip and fall issue, this will add some additional security.
Boy, I tell you, we love problem solution scenarios, because so many people look on different things. And just like right now, lots of people are listening and thinking, hey, that would be perfect for the patio, or perfect for this, or perfect for that. Tell you what, you can buy TracSafe right this minute by going to homedepot.com, or you can check it all out at daichcoatings.com, and that's DAICH coatings.com. Also, while you're there at daichcoatings.com, look around a little bit. There's a lot of things that Peter has developed over the years that can solve maybe a few of the cosmetic issues you have around your home, and as well as some of the functional issues around there. I love some of the different concrete coatings. I'm about to apply some come to my garage here in my new house. Looking forward to that, and always look forward to having you on the show, Peter. And I certainly hope you have a great weekend. And thanks for spending some time with us.
Hey, thanks very much, gentlemen. Take care.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Again, that's DaichCoatings.com, DAICH Coatings.com. Right now, we're going to shift gears and keep it simple with a simple solution from my buddy Joe Truini.
Okay, Danny, here's a tip on how to easily cut wide rolls of paper or any other material. And we're talking about brown packing paper, builder's felt, roll roofing, foam underlayment that you might be putting down underneath a laminate floor or something like that. And what you do is you stand the roll up on end, unroll as much as you need, but rather than just using a utility knife or any other kind of knife to cut straight down through the top edge and all the way down, what you do is you start down about 2 inches from the top edge. Because if you start on the top edge and cut it down, what happens is it'll flop over, and depending on the material, it'll tear. So what you do is you go down about 2 inches from the top, and then you cut all the way straight through to the bottom, and then you just tear off. You don't even have to cut. You just pull and tear off the top edge, that little tab that you left behind. And by doing so, it won't flop over because it hasn't been cut all the way through at the top. It's as simple as that.
Boy, some of those techniques like that could save you so much frustration and aggravation, and people automatically start right at the top and slice it down. Right. And
that's what I did for many years till I discovered this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many times on roofing felt and that kind of thing have you done that? And then you mentioned the underlayment for laminate floors. That's something that people are dealing with all the time. The floating type floor, you need that little cushion below it, and that can be a frustrating thing, trying to cut it and roll it out and that kind of thing. So.
Well, this is one of those tips that I started using with, actually, it was a rosin paper that I was putting down underneath the wood floor. And since then, you find uses for it. Some of these simple solutions, you think, oh, that's a great tip, but how often are you going to use it? But then you sort of find yourself using it more often than you ever would have guessed. And this is one of those.
We've got so many emails here that have come in this week. I think I'll grab another one here from Indiana. Pat asked, I have a flower garden and there's grass that keeps growing in it. When I pull the grass, it comes back even thicker. How can I get rid of the grass? And is there something I can spray on it to kill it? Boy, you have to really be careful on that one in terms of not, killing things surrounding it. I mean, I always think if there's any way you can get gloves and really get down in there and pull out the actual roots and everything of that grass is going to be your best way to do it. But some of it is extremely hard to do, and you have to look at some of the herbicides that are available for that. But boy, you got to do some research on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't recommend. There's a product that everybody knows the name. I'm not sure they even make it anymore, or they're allowed to make it. I'll give you a hint. It's not Square Down. But anyway, I would not recommend spraying any kind of poison like that around. One sort of simple way to do it, and I've seen this and it works, you put down sheets of cardboard and cover it with mulch. And basically you're just starving out the the weeds in this case. Now, that doesn't work if you've got flowers growing between the weeds, or grass in this case. But that will work. It'll just suffocate the grass and it'll eventually die. But pulling it out will definitely work, but of course you have to get every single root and any seeds coming off. You have to be careful of. So if you're able to put down cardboard, even if you have to cut them around your flowers, or whatever, cover it with mulch so you don't really see the cardboard. That will eventually kill the grass.
And look, when you're pulling weeds out of your garden, out of your yard, wherever you're pulling them out, do not lay them down on the sidewalk.
That's right.
And do not lay them on the ground. I see people doing this all the time, and I'm trying to explain to them, you're spreading the seeds of that weed all over the place. Pull it out of the ground and throw it directly in a paper bag or a garbage bag or something.
Wheelbarrow, something, right?
Yeah, get it away from there. I see that happening all the time, and it just upsets me, Joe. I tell you, it just upsets me when I see it.
Is that what's upsetting you this weekend?
Yeah, I get all rattled when I see the weeds laying.
We may have to cut this show short, Danny.
But I'll tell you, even again in my new yard there, I mean, how can weeds come up through brand new sod that you've rototilled? We've put amendments in it. We've raked it. It's completely free of vegetation, and I even just completely killed every single thing on this ground with a chemical. I mean, there was nothing growing there.
It's amazing,
You put
right?
the sod down, 3 weeks later, there's grass that's growing up, and it looks like little bitty trees, little tiny seedlings or something like that. And so, here we go. And my wife's very diligent about actually crawling around and pulling these things out.
Right, yeah.
Again,
it's a constant battle.
I hope she's listening so that she will quit putting those weeds on the sidewalk and spreading them all around. So, oh, man. Right now, we're going to go to Washington State, where we get a lot of wonderful calls all the time. John's on the line now. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about a project that you have in mind here.
Well, I'm trying to remodel my laundry room, and I've discovered that there's I guess it was a former bathroom area before we bought the house. And so there's a exhaust fan leading from that ceiling into of course, the roof. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to cap off the exhaust fan cap on the roof.
I got you.
I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to do that.
Okay. All right. You have shingles on that roof?
We do have shingles on the roof.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get to that, let me ask you this. We install a lot of exhaust fans now in laundry rooms because that's, again, a big source of heat and moisture in the home. If it's working and in pretty good shape, not a bad idea to have that during some of those times where you may be washing and drying clothes. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth with it. I know the fan that's in there now is in really bad shape, and there's no switch for it. So I got to get back into the attic to make sure the power is not connected to it. There might be a loose wire.
I see.
So I'm just trying to figure out if I remove it, it will be the best way. But I also could keep it. So I got a little bit more investigating to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and if you do decide to keep keep a system in there and replace it, I'll tell you, these new Braun exhaust fans. I have one in my bathroom now that has a humidistat on it. So I leave the fan on all the time. And when the humidity's up, so that you don't have to worry about turning it on, turning it off. I leave it on all the time, but it doesn't run all the time. It only runs when that humidity hits the 50% relative humidity point. Then it turns on automatically until it lowers it back down. And even maybe on a very humid day, something like that, it may turn on. And so I love that kind of thing. And we've installed that in a number of laundry rooms too. Again, you just leave it on, and when that humidity gets on, it takes care of it. So that's just a consideration. But if you decide to go forward with patching that roof, a lot of times I've seen people, and I don't agree with this, even though the hole may only be 6 inches, they just will glue or nail a piece of metal over it, and then they'll glue shingles right over it. And that might work for a while, but if you ever are walking on your roof and you happen to hit that one point, it will collapse into there. So that's not the best way to do it. So depending on if you have plywood or depending on if you have boards, regular 1x6s or so forth as your decking of your roof, I would carefully cut back the shingles. Of course, first of all, you need to get some shingles on hand, a few that you'll need to patch it in. And then I would just cut it back. Those shingles are going to be 3 foot long by 1 foot tall, and just carefully take your flat bar and remove the shingles that you need to so that you can get that decking underneath it done properly, replace back in there, and then layer a felt, and then you're able to put your shingles back on. And, hopefully the shingles will blend in fairly well. There may be some discoloration there for a little while until it gets a little weathering on it. It's not a real hard project, but if you're not familiar with shingles and you're not comfortable on the roof, I would get a roofer to take care of it. It's a very simple project for them.
Okay. Thank you very much. A lot to think about.
Yeah, there you go. And if we can help you any other way, just let us know on that.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Hey, now it's time for our podcast question of the week. This comes from Louisiana. Brenda asked, we replaced our carpet with wood and our floor electrical outlet is now below the floor level. What do I need to do to bring the outlet up to the level of the wood floor? All right, Brenda, first of all, you need to be careful. And if you're not familiar and comfortable with electrical work, it's well worth it to get an electrician in to take care of this, because you really need to be very careful about extending that floor outlet and that junction box up. You just don't want to have a place there that anything can get in and arc with that outlet. Joe, I know that when you're, like, say, putting a backsplash up, you have these little extenders that are actually required by code that you're able to extend out. I assume they have something like that for a floor plug that, could be a rectangular plug, but also a lot of times those are round type of junctions. I'm sure they have the same thing for that.
Yeah, I would think they'd need them more often for floors than for walls. And it's called an adjustable electric box extension. And the ones I've installed were for walls. And it's nothing more than a rectangular plastic ring that attaches to the existing electrical box that's ordinarily in the wall. You don't have to disconnect or rewire the electrical outlet. The ring just screws in place. And then you bring the outlet and you mount it onto the new extension ring. And the ones I've used, they adjust from about 3/8 inches to 1 1/8 inches. So there's plenty of play in it.
Sure.
Now, I will say that I've only installed the rings that go on wall outlets, and I'm not 100% sure they're code compliant for floor outlets.
Right.
But I'm sure there's something like this that exists. So I would go to the home center and look around, or an electrical supply place would probably be the first stop, I guess, because they would have various options. Take a picture of what you have there.
That's right.
In case it's round or square. Measure how much more you're adding. I suspect it's probably can't be more than 3/4 of an inch, I would think. But like I said, there's plenty of play in these extension rings, and I'm sure that they would be able to direct her toward the right product to use.
Yeah, make sure that you have no doubt whatsoever that it is done right. So there again, electrician's pretty inexpensive to drop by and take care of that. Brenda, thanks for that question. And if you'd like to send us a question, you can do so very easily. Today's homeowner.com/podcast. And we always want to say thank you so much for the great reviews we're getting. The number of people that are downloading our podcast each week is increasing each and every week. And for that, we're very, very appreciative. I'm Danny Lipford along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us on this week's Today's Homeowner Podcast.